Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it?
Picture this, you've just spent 14 hours on airplanes.
Ugh, right, crossing multiple time zones.
Exactly. And you finally touch down on this blindingly white concrete airstrip. You step off a small propeller plane into the heavy, sweet tropical air.
And then the absolute first thing you realize is that you do not have any local cash.
None. Zero. You look around for an ATM and there just isn't one.
You look for a taxi. Not a single one in sight.
Right. So you pull out your phone thinking, okay, I'll just pull up my banking app and wire money to the hotel.
But you have 0 bars of service.
Yeah, zero.
Yeah.
So for this brief, terrifying second, you feel completely stranded.
But then you look past the tiny open-air shelter that they call an airport terminal, and you see it.
The water.
Yeah, I mean, a lagoon so aggressively turquoise, so impossibly clear, and sand that literally glows pink in the sun.
And suddenly the whole ATM thing just doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Because you realize you've stumbled into one of the most stunning hidden corners of the Earth.
Yeah.
So today we are putting a very specific dot on the map under the microscope. We are unpacking Tikehau.
Yeah, it's really the definition of remote, but it's a purposeful kind of remote. It's a tiny coral atoll in the Tuamotu Archipelago of French Polynesia.
A place most people genuinely cannot find on a map.
Exactly. I mean, we are talking about a place with fewer than 500 permanent residents.
Wow.
0 cruise ships. 0 traffic. And quite possibly the clearest, most densely fish-packed lagoon anywhere on the planet.
But, the reason we are doing this specific deep dive right now is that Tikehau is experiencing this, fragile golden window.
It is. It's extraordinary today, but this right now has a very strict expiry date.
And that is the core tension here. You, the listener, need to understand that the macroeconomic forces of global tourism are shifting beneath our feet right now.
They really are.
So we're going to reveal the honest, unvarnished US dollar cost picture for you today.
Right, spanning everything from $80 budget spots all the way up to $600 overwater bungalows.
Plus, we're going to expose 3 massive logistics traps that routinely catch first-timers off guard.
Yeah, those are brutal.
And ultimately, we're going to deliver a brutally honest verdict on whether the price tag and the 2 necessary flights are actually worth it for your specific travel style.
So to understand why Tikehau is the contrarian play for 2026, we actually have to start by looking about 200 miles away at its incredibly famous neighbor.
Right. You really can't understand Tikehau's current moment without understanding the sheer crisis happening in Bora Bora.
Exactly. Everyone knows Bora Bora.
Oh, for sure. It's the absolute postcard of the South Pacific.
When you close your eyes and picture a honeymoon dream, you picture Mount Atamanu rising out of the water.
And those perfectly manicured lines of overwater bungalows.
Yeah, but the reality check for anyone planning a trip in 2026 is pretty stark. Bora Bora has basically become an overcrowded VIP club.
And the bouncers have decided to start turning people away at the door.
That is exactly what's happening, and it's happening at a legislative level. The Bora Bora of our imagination is, it's colliding with the physical limits of their infrastructure.
So right now, your average overwater bungalow in Bora Bora is going to run you between $800 and $1,200 a night.
Which is wild. And just a standard shared boat tour of the lagoon, $90 to $130 per person.
But the prices aren't even the real barrier anymore, right? It's the regulations.
Yeah, the French Polynesian government recently proposed a hard annual cap of 280,000 to 300,000 visitors for the entire territory.
Wow, a hard cap.
Yeah, and Bora Bora itself is actively restricting large-scale cruise ships and enforcing caps on daily disembarkations.
Basically, they're intentionally trying to cool down their own tourism market.
Right, because the lagoon ecosystem and the local infrastructure simply cannot handle the volume anymore.
So if you're a traveler who, finally saved up the money to go to French Polynesia, and Bora Bora is actively making it harder to get in, what do you do?
Well, that overflow of highly motivated, well-funded travelers has to go somewhere.
Right. They don't just cancel their vacations.
No. They look at the map, they slide their finger a couple of inches to the northeast, and they land on the Tuamotu Archipelago.
Which brings Tikehau right into the crosshairs. So geographically, it's located about 220 miles northeast of Tahiti.
But you need to understand that Tikehau is a fundamentally different geological structure than Bora Bora.
Okay. How so?
Well, Bora Bora is a high volcanic island. It has that massive jagged mountain in the center, surrounded by a lagoon. Tikehau, on the other hand, is a true atoll.
Let's explain what that means for the listener who isn't, a marine geologist.
Sure.
When you say true atoll, you mean there's absolutely no mountain. It's completely flat.
Correct. Imagine a volcano that over millions of years has slowly sunk back into the ocean. And the only thing left behind is the ring of coral that grew around the edges of that volcano. That ring is an atoll.
Ah, got it.
So in Tikehau's case, it's a 17-mile diameter ring of coral islets, they call them motu down there, that encloses this massive central lagoon.
And because there's no mountain, there's no dirt or soil runoff when it rains.
Yeah, exactly. The water doesn't get muddy. And that geological fact is exactly why the water clarity is so mind-bending. You can routinely see the lagoon floor perfectly from 20 feet up.
And it isn't just empty, pretty water either. I mean, back in the 1990s, Jacques Cousteau's research team did a comprehensive survey of the entire region.
Right, the famous Cousteau survey.
Yeah, and they ultimately crowned Tikehau as having the highest concentration of fish species in all of French Polynesia.
Which is incredible. And again, there's a biological mechanism for why.
Oh.
Yeah, the structure of an atoll acts like a giant natural nutrient trap. The ocean tides rush in and out of the deep water passes, bringing in microscopic food.
Which feeds the small fish.
Which brings in the reef sharks, the manta rays, and all the larger predators. It is quite literally an intact, unbothered aquarium.
And because the main village, Tuamotu, has under 500 people, and there's like zero nightlife, no shopping district, no cruise terminals.
That marine ecosystem has remained staggeringly pristine.
So we have a pristine aquarium, and we have Bora Bora capping visitors. Let's talk about the headline numbers, because this is where the contrarian strategy really pays off for the listener.
Let's break it down, starting from the air.
Okay, how do we get there?
So to get to French Polynesia at all, you're flying into Fea International Airport in Papeete, Tahiti. Let's look at the lead international markets.
Right.
From Los Angeles, you're looking at between $584 to $900 round trip.
Not bad.
No. From Auckland, New Zealand, it's roughly $600 to $900. If you're coming from Australia, flying out of Sydney, it's $900 to $1,400.
And Melbourne is right there too, right?
Yeah, Melbourne is $950 to $1,500.
Okay, but for our European listeners, the haul is much longer and pricier. Like, a round trip from London will cost you between $1,200 and $1,800.
And Toronto is sitting between $1,100 and $1,600.
Got it. So once you land in Papeete, you need the domestic leg to Tikehau.
Right, and that round-trip flight on Air Tahiti will run you roughly $350 to $500.
Okay, so that's the airfare sorted out. Now, what does it cost to actually sleep on this atoll?
You have distinct tiers. Budget accommodations, which the locals call pensions or guest houses, run between $80 and $150 a night.
Very reasonable.
Yeah. Then mid-range lodges are $200 to $350. And then you have the luxury tier, places like Tikehau by Pearl Resorts and the highly exclusive Ninamu Resort.
And what do those run?
Those are going to be $450 to $750 a night.
Okay, this is the critical comparison. I want you, the listener, to really hear this. That luxury tier in Tikehau, $450 to $750 gets you a stunning overwater bungalow or a private island eco-lodge.
Right.
But if you want that exact same structural tier of luxury in Bora Bora, you are paying $800 to $1,200 a night.
And that is the crux of the financial argument here. It isn't just about finding a cheaper hotel room. Your dollar is going nearly twice as far structurally.
You're getting the exclusivity, the water quality, and the high-end accommodation of Bora Bora's VIP club, but at the price of a secret elite speakeasy.
I love that analogy.
But wait, a speakeasy is only cool if you know the password and you know exactly when the doors open.
Very true.
I mean, if you go at the wrong time, you're just standing in an empty alley. Which brings up a massive variable: the weather and the crowd timing.
Yeah, Tikehau is not a year-round foolproof destination. It operates on a very distinct micro-season calendar.
And if you get this wrong, you will absolutely ruin your trip.
Absolutely. The password to this speakeasy is knowing exactly when to book. You essentially have two highly distinct seasons.
Okay, let's start with the good one.
The dry season is your premium window. That runs from May through October. During these months, the trade winds, which the locals call the Maramu, blow steadily.
And the temperatures?
They sit beautifully between 77 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 25 to 28 degrees Celsius. The humidity drops, and because there's so little rain, The underwater visibility inside the lagoon routinely exceeds 100 feet.
It's absolute perfection.
It is.
But inside that premium dry season, you have a massive spike in demand, right?
Oh, yeah. July and August are the absolute peak. This aligns perfectly with European and North American school summer holidays, plus the local French Polynesian holidays.
And you definitely feel that peak in your wallet. If you look at a property like the Pearl Resorts, their room rates jump by 30 to 40% in July and August compared to the shoulder months.
It gets significantly more expensive.
So if I'm looking at the calendar, trying to optimize weather, crowds, and cost, May and June are the sweet spot.
Without question. May and June offer the dry, clear weather. You bypass the massive European holiday price hikes, and you get the thinnest crowds of the good weather months.
Okay, flip the coin. What about the wet season? November through April. If someone sees a flight deal in, like, February and thinks they are gaming the system, what are they actually walking into?
They are walking into a massive gamble. From November through April, the heat cranks up significantly, sitting between 86 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 to 32 degrees Celsius.
That's hot and muggy, I assume.
Very. The humidity is heavy, often oppressive, but the real issue is the rain. You will see regular, heavy afternoon rain squalls that can churn up the lagoon and ruin that famous visibility.
And it's not just a ruined beach day. We have to be totally honest about the safety risk here. You are right in the thick of the South Pacific cyclone belt.
Exactly. From December through March, the cyclone risk is entirely real. We aren't talking about theoretical models here. Cyclone Oli in 2010 and Cyclone Hana in 2014 caused massive structural damage across the Tuamotu atolls. These low-lying coral rings are incredibly vulnerable to storm surges.
And the frustrating part is the accommodation prices in January and February don't actually drop enough to justify taking that weather risk.
No, they don't. Because inventory on the island is so small, they don't need to slash prices by 70% to fill rooms.
So the general rule is avoid the wet season entirely.
Mostly, yes.
But there's one very specific, incredible exception to that rule, right?
There is. Whale shark season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from December through March, these massive filter-feeding giants migrate right through Tikehau's outer deep-water passes.
That sounds amazing.
For hardcore divers and marine enthusiasts, swimming with a 40-foot whale shark is a bucket list life event that completely justifies braving the wet season.
But it's a very niche appeal. If you are going for a romantic getaway or to sit on the pink sand, just stick to the dry season.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about the reality of trying to book that dry season right now. We mentioned earlier that Tikehau has under 500 residents.
Right.
How many visitors are actually going there compared to Bora Bora?
So right now, Tikehau sees roughly 8,000 to 12,000 visitors a year.
Wow.
Remember, Bora Bora is seeing well over 100,000. And here is the real bottleneck. There are only 25 accommodation properties on the entire atoll of Tikehau.
25 total.
That includes every budget guest house up to the luxury resorts. Just 25.
So earlier you said that because of Bora Bora's visitor caps, search interest for the Tuamotu atolls like Tikehau, Rangiroa, and Whakaarawa is surging.
Yes.
Let me push back on this a bit. What does surging search interest actually mean for a listener? Because, I mean, surge sounds like a marketing buzzword.
Yeah.
If I want to go to Tikehau next May, what does that practically mean for my planning?
It means the timeline for pulling off this trip has fundamentally changed. And it caught a lot of people out last year.
How so?
Well, 2 or 3 years ago, you could decide you wanted to go to Tikehau, plan the trip 4 to 6 weeks out, and secure a perfectly good room. Today, that booking window has stretched to 3 to 4 months in advance for any date in the dry season.
Wow, 3 to 4 months.
The demand is rising fast as people get priced out of Bora Bora, but the room inventory is static. They aren't building massive new mega resorts on Tikehau, the land doesn't support it, and the community doesn't want it.
Right.
So a surging demand against a fixed inventory means the booking window is closing in real time. If you drag your feet, you simply will not get a bed.
All right, let's assume the listener is on it. They booked 4 months out. They nailed the May sweet spot. Now they actually have to get there.
This is where the adventure starts.
Right, and this journey acts as its own kind of filter. You don't just magically teleport to the pink sand. Let's walk through the route. You take your international long-haul flight, and you land at Faya International Airport in Papeete.
And here is a piece of crucial, non-negotiable logistical advice that will save your trip.
Okay, hit us.
You must build in a one-night buffer in Papeete. Do not try to land internationally and connect to Tikehau on the exact same day.
Wait, really? Why? I mean, if I land in Papeete at 8 a.m. and there's a 2 p.m. flight to Tikehau, why wouldn't I just take it and get to the beach? Why am I paying for a hotel in Tahiti?
Because you are relying on Air Tahiti, the domestic carrier, which operates a massive, complex network across an ocean territory the size of Western Europe.
Okay.
They only run one, sometimes two flights a day to Tikehau. If your international flight is delayed by even a few hours, or if Air Tahiti alters their schedule due to regional weather, which happens all the time, you will miss that single daily connection.
Oh, that would be awful.
And if you miss it, you are entirely at the mercy of their availability the next day, which during peak season is likely zero.
So you're just stuck.
Exactly. That one-night buffer in Papeete is an insurance policy for your sanity. You arrive, you sleep off the jet lag in Tahiti, and you take the morning flight to Tikehau fresh and stress-free.
I love that. An insurance policy for your sanity. So you take that domestic flight, it's about an hour long, and then you land at Tuamotu Airport on Tikehau.
Yeah.
But airport, it's a very generous word here, isn't it?
It is wildly generous. The arrival shock is profound. Tuamotu Airport is literally just a concrete strip and a small, open-sided shelter. That is the entire facility.
So there are no baggage carousels. A guy literally unloads the plane with a cart.
Exactly.
You walk out, and there is no taxi rank, there is no car rental desk, there are no buses. Your accommodation absolutely must pick you up.
Yes.
And if you are staying at one of the luxury spots like Pearl or Ninamo, which are located on their own private motus across the lagoon, you need a boat transfer.
Right. Sometimes this boat transfer is included in your room rate, but sometimes it adds $30 to $50 round trip. You have to verify that detail before you arrive, or you're going to be standing on a concrete strip with your luggage staring at the ocean. Travelers consistently mention the sensory experience of this arrival, too. It is profoundly disorienting.
I bet.
You step out of this modern aircraft into a village where time basically stopped 30 years ago. It's just a string of brightly colored houses, a church, a couple of tiny open-air snack shacks, and locals getting around on bicycles.
I mean, imagine stepping into a town with no traffic lights, no bank branches, no Western-style supermarkets, almost no widespread Wi-Fi.
It is startlingly quiet.
And then you see the lagoon. It is a shocking transition of color. The shallows are this neon turquoise that certainly drops off into a deep, inky blue channel.
And the sand, it really does have a pink tint.
Yeah. It comes from millions of tiny crushed shells of single-celled organisms called foraminifera mixing with the white coral. It just feels surreal.
It really does.
Tikehau isn't putting on a show for tourists. There are no welcome cocktails or fire dancers greeting you at the airport. It just exists.
And that utter lack of artifice, that authenticity is exactly what people are paying for. But let's look at what they're actually paying, because understanding the accommodation landscape is critical.
Let's do it.
There are 4 distinct tiers of places to stay, and the structural differences between them dictate your entire experience.
Let's spend some real time here, because where you stay on Tikehau dictates how you eat, how you get around, and what your daily life looks like.
Absolutely.
Let's start at the foundation, the budget tier. These are the pensions and guest houses. They run between $80 and $150 a night.
These pensions are the absolute backbone of the island's infrastructure. They are family-run, intimate, and deeply local.
Got an example.
A perfect example is the Tikehau Cozy Lodge. It's essentially a converted, modernized shipping container sitting right on the waterfront.
That's cool.
Yeah, you get a private kitchen, a hammock strung between palm trees, a little patio, and direct access to the beach. That setup runs about $100 to $130 a night.
Another option in this tier is Hiti Tikehau. It's another waterfront spot, costing roughly $90 to $140 a night.
And they throw in free bicycles for guests, which is huge since there are no cars, and you get a private beach area.
But if you're booking a pension, there is a crucial add-on you must budget for, right? Half-board meals.
Yes, half-board is absolutely essential. It means your breakfast and your dinner are provided by the family running the pension.
And how much does that add?
Opting into half-board usually adds about $40 to $60 per person per day to your bill. And I strongly recommend you do this.
Why is that?
The restaurant infrastructure on Tikehau is incredibly fragile. Having your core meals secured at your accommodation removes a massive amount of daily stress and friction from your trip.
We will definitely dig into the food situation in a minute, but let's move up the accommodation ladder to the mid-range tier. These are the lodges and small resorts running $200 to $350 a night.
At this tier, you're looking at places like Timanu Lodge Tikehau. This is a solid 3-star beachfront setup. It has beautifully maintained gardens, spacious terraces, and a more polished feel than a local pension.
Okay.
That sits comfortably at $200 to $280 a night.
But then you have places like Hakamanu Lodge. This is where the geography of the atoll starts playing a huge role.
Right, because Hakamanu is located on a private motu, meaning it's an islet completely separated from the main village. You can only get there by boat.
It offers incredible lagoon views, and they provide free kayaks and snorkel gear for guests. That costs $270 to $350 a night.
Which is amazing.
And this blows my mind. You are getting the genuine, quiet isolation of a remote private island. The kind of profound silence people normally pay thousands of dollars for without the massive luxury price tag.
It is an incredible value proposition. You are trading ultra-luxury amenities for raw geographic isolation.
But if you do want those ultra-luxury amenities, we step up to Tier 3, luxury.
The flagship here is Tikehau by Pearl Resorts.
This is the postcard. This is where you find the classic overwater bungalows with the glass panels in the floor, private plunge pools, a wooden ladder dropping straight from your deck into the lagoon.
Plus an on-site luxury spa and high-end dining.
Like Hakamanu, the Pearl Resort is located on its own private motu, so boat transfers to the main village are required.
Right. And if you go in the low or shoulder season, this runs $450 to $650 a night. In the absolute peak of July and August, it climbs to $600 to $750 a night.
And again, let's provide the context. A peak season rate of $750 for a luxury overwater bungalow with a glass floor is an astonishing deal when the exact same setup in Bora Bora is charging $1,200 on a Tuesday.
It's just night and day.
Which brings us to the top of the mountain, the premium boutique tier, Ninamu Resort.
This place is fascinating. It costs $500 to $750 a night, but it is aggressively, intentionally exclusive.
Like how exclusive?
It is an eco-focused resort entirely contained on a private island, and they strictly limit the property to just 6 bungalows. 6.
Wow.
They don't even allow day visitors to come and have a drink.
And critically, that $500 to $750 nightly rate at Ninamu is all-inclusive. It includes all your meals and most of your daily activities.
Let's do the math on that. If you are staying at the Four Seasons in Bora Bora, you are paying $1,200 to $1,800 just for the room, and you are sharing the resort with hundreds of other guests.
Right.
Staying at Ninamu means you are getting unparalleled intimacy, a private island, and your food covered for literally 40 to 60% of the cost of Bora Bora. It is staggering value.
It's the ultimate hidden gem for high-net-worth travelers who want privacy over flash. But, as we hinted at earlier, saving money or finding isolation doesn't mean everything on the island operates perfectly smoothly.
Not at all.
Which brings us to a massive reality check. We need to talk about food, groceries, and the cultural etiquette of existing on Tikehau.
Yeah.
And I want the listener to really tune in here, because this is the single most important logistics warning of this entire deep dive. Tell them about the restaurant scene.
The restaurant scene on Tikehau is unpredictable at best. And I mean that literally. Traveler reports from late 2025 and early 2026 are entirely consistent on this point. Local restaurants and snack shacks have highly irregular hours.
How irregular?
They will close for the day without any notice, or you will show up during their posted open hours. The sign will say, open,
Yeah.
and the front door will just be locked.
Now hold on. If I am spending $300 or $400 a day to be on vacation, and I walk up to the only restaurant on the island at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday and it's locked, I am going to be furious.
People do lose their minds over this.
I mean, how do you justify that kind of unreliability in a tourist destination?
You have to completely shift your paradigm. You cannot view it through the lens of a Western consumer demanding service. It isn't malice and it isn't laziness.
Okay, what is it?
This is simply the reality of a remote village of fewer than 500 people. They have not contorted their lives or their culture to fit a 247 on-demand tourism economy.
That makes sense.
If the fishermen didn't catch enough fish that morning, the restaurant doesn't open. If there is a family event, the restaurant doesn't open.
So what's the solution?
The solution is simple. Treat external dining like a pop-up event. Plan your core meals, breakfast and dinner at your accommodation, which is why half-board is so vital.
Right.
Any meal you manage to eat at a local snack shack is a fun cultural bonus, not a structural pillar of your daily survival.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a feature, not a bug. of the isolation. Now let's talk about the actual currency in groceries.
Yeah, you are dealing with the CFP franc, usually abbreviated as XPF.
And a good rough conversion to keep in your head is that 1,000 XPF equals about $8.70 in US dollars.
Right. So if you need supplies, the main village of Tuamotu has exactly one small corner shop, a general store.
Just one.
Just one. You can get basic survival items there. Tinned goods, rice, bottled water, maybe some local fruit. But interestingly, they have a supply chain for fresh bread. They get fresh baguettes delivered by boat from Tahiti. They are fantastic, very French, and cost about 150 XPF, which is like $1.30 in USD.
And what about grabbing a drink?
Oh.
A local Hinano beer at the store or a snack shack will run you roughly 400 to 600 XPF, so about $3.50 to $5.20 USD.
Sounds about right.
But what if I want an actual meal that isn't from a tin or my hotel?
Your absolute best culinary bet is to walk down to the dock and find the local fishermen. They will sell you incredibly fresh tuna, mahi-mahi, or parrotfish right off the boat for a fraction of what a restaurant would charge.
And if you do find an open snack shack,
Which is a casual, local, open-air eatery, right? You will pay roughly $10 to $18 per person for a plate of grilled fish and rice.
let's compare that to the hotel dining costs. A proper sit-down dinner at your local pension, if you've built it into your half-board rate, breaks down to about $25 to $40 per person.
But if you are staying at the high-end Pearl Resort and eating at their restaurant, expect to pay between $60 and $100 per person for dinner.
While we are talking about interacting with the locals and eating, we should quickly touch on cultural etiquette.
Definitely. The rhythm of life here is profoundly slow. Time is an abstract concept. Patience isn't just a virtue, it's a requirement.
And how should people greet the locals?
If you walk or bike past someone in the village, offering a cheerful ia ora na, which is Tahitian for hello, goes a very long way in establishing goodwill.
What about tipping? Is there a big tipping culture we need to be aware of?
Not at all. Tipping is not standard, and it is not expected in French Polynesian culture. The price on the menu is the price you pay.
Good to know.
Now, if a guide goes wildly above and beyond, a tip is appreciated, but no one will chase you down the street if you simply pay the bill.
And dress code.
Simply out of respect for the local community, you should dress modestly when you are walking through the main village. Save the bikinis and Speedos for the resort pool or the isolated beaches.
All right, we've covered the flights, the rooms, the food. I want to pull all of this together. Let's break down the total daily out-of-pocket budget.
Good idea.
I want the listener to know exactly what they need to have sitting in their bank account before they pull the trigger on this trip. Let's start with the absolute low budget.
The low budget tier on Tikehau means spending roughly $120 to $160 a day.
What does that get you?
That covers staying at a modest pension on half-board, which takes up about $100 to $130. It leaves you room to grab a snack shack lunch for $12 to $18, buy a couple of local Hinano beers for $7 to $10, and rent a bicycle for $10 to $15 to explore the island.
So no expensive boat tours here.
No. At this tier, you are not paying for guided boat tours. You are relying entirely on the free shore snorkeling, riding your bike, and reading a book. It is a very pure, simple way to experience the atoll.
Let's scale it up to the mid-range budget. This feels like the sweet spot for most travelers.
It is. This budget sits between $250 to $380 per day, per person.
Okay.
At this level, you upgrade to a nice lodge, paying $200 to $350 a night. You still have your half-board covered, but now you have the financial breathing room to book one guided tour a day, say a boat trip or a drift snorkel, which costs $50 to $80. You can afford a local dinner out and plenty of drinks.
Let's put that in a real-world scenario. If a couple stays for 5 nights on that mid-range budget, what is the total damage?
For a couple doing 5 nights at the mid-range tier, you are looking at $2,500 to $3,800 total.
And remember, that is for 2 people, covering room, food, and activities.
Right.
That does not include the flights.
Right.
And what about the high or luxury budget?
Here, you are spending $600 to $900 per day per person. You're staying in the Overwater bungalow at the Pearl Resort for $450 to $750 a night.
Plus the food.
Exactly. You are eating upscale resort dining at $60 to $100 a meal. You are booking private boat charters.
So for a couple,
For a couple doing 5 nights of unabashed luxury, you are looking at $6,000 to $9,000. Again, to hammer the context home, Spending $9,000 for 5 nights of premium luxury here is still 40 to 50% cheaper than doing the exact same thing at the Bora Bora Four Seasons.
Now, here is a scenario we see popping up more and more. The digital nomad.
Oh boy.
Let's say I'm a remote worker. I have a budget of $3,500 to $5,500 a month.
Yeah.
I want to rent a pension on Tikehau, set up my laptop on a hammock, and work remotely for a month. How viable is that?
I'm going to stop you right there and aggressively debunk this fantasy. Tikehau is explicitly, undeniably, and physically not designed for remote work.
Tell them why.
The Wi-Fi infrastructure is wildly unreliable. We are talking about an island that relies heavily on satellite connections and limited undersea cables that prioritize Tahiti. There are no co-working spaces.
And
the cellular signal is weak at the best of times and non-existent on the outer modus. If you try to come here and run Zoom meetings or upload large files, you are making a fundamental category error.
You'll just be miserable.
You will be miserable, your boss will be furious, and you will ruin your trip. Tikehau is for disconnecting, full stop.
Consider yourselves fully warned. Do not bring your spreadsheets to the pink sand. Let's finish the budget picture by adding in the flight context from our lead markets so we get the total trip cost.
Right. So, taking our earlier flight averages and adding the domestic Air Tahiti leg, let's look at 2 totally different travelers.
Okay.
A couple flying out of Sydney, Australia, doing a mid-range 5-night stay. Will spend roughly $5,000 to $6,500 total for the entire trip, door to door.
And let's look at a couple flying out of London, doing the grueling 30-hour transit, but going all out on the luxury tier for 5 nights. They're looking at a total trip cost of $10,000 to $14,000. It's a serious investment.
It is a massive investment, and when you are spending that kind of money, the last thing you want is for a logistical oversight to derail the whole thing.
Exactly. Which brings us to arguably the most valuable part of this deep dive. I want to talk about 3 massive, named logistics traps that routinely catch first-timers. Just reading about these gives me secondhand travel anxiety.
Yeah, they're rough.
Trap number 1, the Air Tahiti booking blackout. What is the mechanism here? Why is this happening?
The mechanism is pure physical capacity. Air Tahiti flies an ATR-72 turboprop aircraft on the Papeete to Tikehau route. That specific airplane holds exactly 70 passengers.
Only 70?
Right. They use it because it can land on short, remote coral airstrips. But that means there are literally only 70 seats available on any given day. In the peak season of July and August, or during the October school holidays, those 70 seats sell out weeks, sometimes months, in advance.
So they can't just add more flights?
No, they do not have extra planes or pilots sitting around to just add more flights on demand.
So the reality is, a traveler books their massive, expensive international flight to Papeete. They get their confirmation email. And they just assume that getting from Tahiti to Tikehau is like taking a bus.
Yeah.
They figure they can just buy a walk-up ticket when they get there, or book it a week before. What happens to them?
They get stranded, they land in Papeete, walk up to the Air Tahiti counter, and are told there are no seats for 3 days.
Oh, man.
Suddenly, they are stuck in Tahiti. They have to pay for an unexpected hotel in Papeete, which adds $150 to $300 a night to their trip.
And eating into their vacation time.
Exactly, and they are missing the non-refundable nights they already booked at their Tikehau resort. It is a disaster.
The fix for this is incredibly straightforward, but you have to be disciplined. Book your domestic Air Tahiti flight on the exact same day you book your international flights. Do not wait to see if the price drops. It won't. Secure the seat.
And actually, if you plan to visit multiple islands, there's a hack for this, right?
Yes. Look into the Air Tahiti Lagoons Pass. It costs roughly $450 to $500. It is essentially a multi-stop ticket that covers flights between Moorea, Rangiroa, Tikehau, Monihi, and Whakarava.
If you are doing an atoll hopping trip, this pass is vastly cheaper and easier than booking individual single-leg flights.
Okay, trap number 2. I hinted at this in the very beginning of the show, the no-ATM cash crisis.
The mechanism here is exactly what it sounds like. Maintaining an ATM requires secure, armored cash transit, a dedicated 247 data connection, and enough transaction volume to justify the cost.
Right, which Tikehau doesn't have.
A 500-person island has none of those things. Therefore, there are 0 ATMs on Tikehau, not a broken one, not one hiding in the back of the airport. 0.
And practically every business relies on cash.
Furthermore, the village general store, the local snack shacks, the independent boat guides, and many of the smaller budget pensions operate exclusively 100% in cash.
Only the major luxury spots like Pearl and Ninamu can reliably process credit cards.
Yeah.
So the reality of this trap is terrifying.
Yeah, you arrive on the island with no cash, assuming you can just hit a machine like you do in Paris or Tokyo, and suddenly you are in a genuine financial crisis.
You cannot buy extra food. You cannot book a local snorkeling tour. You can't even buy a bottle of water from the store.
And you have literally no way to resolve it until you fly back to Tahiti.
So the fix is simple, but it requires foresight. You must withdraw your cash in Papeete, either at the international airport or at a bank in town, before you board your domestic flight to Tikehau.
Right. If you are doing a 5-night mid-range stay, you need to pull out a minimum of $300 to $400 equivalent in CFP francs. Bring more if you want to negotiate multiple boat tours with local guides. Cash is king here.
Trap number 3 is something you'd only know if you've been burned by it. The resort motu isolation trap.
As we discussed, the luxury options Pearl and Ninamu, as well as Hakamanu Lodge, are located on private motus, separated from the main airport island by a stretch of lagoon. Boat transfers are absolutely required to get back and forth.
But here's the trap. These are small operations. These boats are not 247 on-demand water taxis.
Right, they do not operate like an Uber you can call from an app at 4 a.m.
So the reality is a traveler books a 7 a.m. flight out of Tikehau to head home. They wake up at 5 a.m. on their gorgeous private island, pack their bags, walk down to the dock, and realize there is no boat and the driver is sound asleep in his bed.
Which is a nightmare.
They literally missed their international connection because they assumed the boat logistics would just magically happen.
To fix this, you have to be proactive. Confirm your return transfer logistics on the very first day you check in. Get it in writing from the front desk.
And crucially, schedule your boat departure to arrive at the airport at least 2 hours before your flight, not the standard 1 hour.
Yes. You need to build in a massive buffer for island time. If the boat engine floods or the driver is running late, you want that hour of padding so you don't watch your plane take off without you.
That is life-saving advice. All right, let's pivot and talk about the realities of existing on the island. Safety, solo travel, and comfort. If I am going to this incredibly remote place, how safe am I? Let's talk about crime versus the environment.
From a social safety standpoint, Tikehau is incredibly profoundly safe. The community is so tiny and everyone knows everyone that strangers are immediately noticed and, frankly, looked after.
So there's no anonymity.
Right. There is no anonymity for crime to hide in. Solo female travelers consistently report feeling entirely comfortable walking or biking around the island alone, completely free from harassment. In this case, the remoteness of the atoll is actually a massive protective asset.
But nature doesn't care how safe the village is. The environment has real teeth.
Exactly. The environmental risk is where you need to be cautious. The main Tuamotu past the deep channel where the lagoon meets the open ocean has incredibly strong, ripping tidal currents.
Like pull you out to sea currents.
Millions of gallons of water are being pushed through a narrow gap in the coral. The outer reefs constantly experience heavy, unpredictable ocean swells. And occasionally, the lagoon will experience large blooms of jellyfish.
So what's the advice for a traveler who wants to swim but doesn't want to get swept out to sea?
My absolute expert advice is this. If you are not a highly confident, physically fit, experienced ocean swimmer, do not attempt to snorkel or swim the outer passes on your own. It is too dangerous.
Think of the shallow stuff.
Stay inside the calm, shallow waters of the inner lagoon. And no matter where you are swimming, bring sturdy water shoes. Coral cuts get infected very easily in the tropics, and you want to protect your feet.
Let's talk about families. Is this a good spot to drag the kids?
It is a massive double-edged sword. From a purely environmental standpoint, it is a very family-friendly destination. The inner lagoon is shallow, warm, and safe. There is zero vehicle traffic to worry about. It is incredibly peaceful. But the logistics burden of pulling it off is heavy. Taking children on long-haul flights, connecting to a tiny domestic prop plane, managing a cash-only economy, and dealing with highly limited, unpredictable food options.
That sounds tough.
It can be incredibly stressful if you are the kind of parent who likes to freestyle a vacation. It is a great family destination, only if you are a meticulous planner who secures half board and books everything months in advance.
All right, let's strip away all the marketing sheen and the Instagram filters. Let's get down to the brass tacks of the experience. What are the absolute best moments, and what are the honest disappointments that are going to let people down?
Let's start with the highs because they are world class. The first best moment is the Bird Islet Motu picnic. This will cost you roughly $60 to $80 a person.
What do you do?
You take a half-day boat tour across the vast lagoon to a completely uninhabited wild islet. It is covered in nesting seabirds, red-footed boobies, and massive frigate birds. But the real draw is the water around the islet.
So clear, right?
The clarity and the color out there are so profound, it literally looks computer-generated. It is the definition of pristine.
Second highlight. Drift snorkeling the Tuamotu Pass. I love the mechanics of this. It costs $40 to $70 to hire a local guide and boat, or it's free if you have your own gear and are highly experienced.
Oh, this is incredible.
Yeah, you take a boat to the mouth of the pass just as the ocean tide starts rushing into the lagoon. You jump in, and you literally ride the current like a high-speed underwater conveyor belt.
You are flying over the reef alongside manta rays, reef sharks, and huge schools of barracuda. Because the tide is pulling all the nutrients in, the fish density is completely unrivaled. It is an adrenaline rush mixed with a nature documentary.
And the third best moment is completely free. It is the sunrise from the village seawall. Set your alarm for 5:30 a.m., make a cup of coffee, walk down to the water, and watch the colors explode over the flat expanse of the lagoon.
The pink sand actually reflects the pink of the sky. Almost every viral social media photo you have ever seen of Tikehau is taken from this exact spot. It is deeply peaceful.
Okay, now for the medicine. What are the honest disappointments? The things the brochures conveniently leave out.
We have to circle back to disappointment number one, the restaurant scene. As we discussed, it is genuinely structurally limiting.
Yeah.
If you are a food-forward traveler, the kind of person who builds their vacation around hunting down amazing culinary experiences, trying different bistros, and eating late dinners, you will be intensely frustrated here. The food is sustenance, it is not the main event.
Disappointment number two, the Wi-Fi. I know we talked about digital nomads, but even for a regular tourist, it's bad. It's not just inconvenient or slow. It is actively, aggressively bad.
It really is.
One travel blogger visiting in early 2026 reported going 48 solid hours with zero internet access across the entire island because a satellite relay was down. You have to be okay with being entirely disconnected from the outside world.
And disappointment number three is what I call the 90% cheaper myth. Yes, the data shows it is structurally cheaper than Bora Bora, but a mid-range couple is still dropping $4,000 to $6,500 for a week-long vacation.
So it's not a budget trip.
We need to completely reframe the expectation for the listener. Tikehau is cheaper luxury. It is absolutely not cheap travel.
Let's say a listener is hearing all this and they're thinking, you know what? The unpredictable food and the lack of Wi-Fi sounds a little too quiet for me. I need slightly more infrastructure. What are the pivots? What are the alternatives in French Polynesia?
Alternative one is staying within the Tuamotu Archipelago but going to Rangiroa. It is the largest atoll in French Polynesia.
Okay.
It is vastly more famous, specifically among the global scuba diving community, because of the Papeete and Overwater passes. The water there is much deeper, the currents are stronger, and you regularly see massive pods of wild dolphins and schools of hammerhead sharks.
If we look at the costs, accommodations in Rangiroa run roughly $100 to $400 a night. The domestic flight cost is the exact same as Tikehau, $350 to $500.
But crucially, for the logistical headaches we discussed earlier, Rangiroa has one working ATM, and because it is larger, it has slightly more reliable food options.
So the verdict between the two is simple. Hardcore deep-water divers go to Rangiroa. People seeking the pink sand, the shallow snorkeling, and absolute profound quiet go to Tikehau.
Exactly.
What about alternative two? Wahine. They call it the wild Tahiti.
Right. Wahine is a totally different geological experience. It is a high volcanic island, not a flat atoll.
So mountains and dirt.
That means instead of just sand and coral, you get massive, lush green jungles, rolling hills, and working vanilla plantations. It also has a deep cultural history with ancient sacred Polynesian sites called marae scattered throughout the jungle.
A daily budget on Wahine runs $150 to $400 a day, with very nice bungalows sitting at $150 to $250 a night. And logistically, it is much easier to fit into a broader itinerary because it is included in the standard Air Tahiti Bora Bora flight pass.
The verdict here. Huahin is the best alternative for travelers who want real terrestrial cultural depth, jungle exploration, and ancient history alongside their lagoon experience. Tikehau is purely about the water.
All right, this brings us to the grand finale, the is it worth it matrix. We're going to synthesize this entire massive deep dive into 5 hard, unyielding verdicts based on traveler type. You need to listen to see where you fit. First up, the backpacker.
The math here is unforgiving. The absolute minimum daily spend is $120 to $160. There are no $30 hostel dorm beds here. There is no cheap street food.
So it's a pass.
The verdict. Tikehau is not for typical budget-stretching backpackers. It will break your budget in 3 days. It is only viable for a backpacker if you treat it as a highly targeted, once-in-a-trip, massive splurge, booking a basic pension and relying strictly on free shore snorkeling to keep costs down.
Next up, the mid-range traveler. Based on everything we've seen with the Bora Bora overflow, this seems to be the core target demographic for 2026.
Absolutely. At $250 to $380 a day, the fish-to-dollar ratio and the quiet-to-price ratio are completely off the charts.
The verdict.
Strongly worth it. It is arguably the single best value in French Polynesia for 2026 and 2027. You are getting pristine atoll isolation for a fraction of resort prices, provided you are willing to do the 4-month advanced prep work to secure the bookings.
What about the family? We pressed out a family of 4, doing 5 nights, at roughly $8,000 to $11,000 total.
The verdict here is highly conditional. It is absolutely worth it for families with older kids, say, 10 years old and up, who can comfortably handle the sun, the snorkeling, and the lack of constant entertainment.
But for the little ones,
however, it is exhausting and highly stressful for young children. The high logistics friction of 2 flights, no ATMs, and limited restaurant access makes it a very tough sell for toddlers.
the luxury traveler.
Yeah.
You are spending $450 to $750 a night here versus $800 to $1,200 a night in Bora Bora.
Verdict. Exceptional value. Think about the Ninamu Resort. You are getting a private island shared with a maximum of 6 bungalows instead of a mega resort shared with hundreds of guests for half the price.
It's just a steal.
It is one of the Pacific's most underpriced, premium overwater bungalow and eco-lodge experiences. Go right now before the broader luxury market figures this out and the prices double.
Finally, the digital nomad or the solo traveler.
Verdict. It is absolute perfection for solo travelers seeking genuine disconnection, deep reading, and raw nature. But it is a total unmitigated category error for digital nomads requiring connectivity. Do not go there expecting to work. You will fail.
So we've broken down the dollars, the coral, the flights, and the food. But looking at the massive shifts happening in 2026, what does this all actually mean for the future of how we travel?
It raises a deeply uncomfortable but essential philosophical question. We are watching Bora Bora implement strict visitor caps because their ecosystem is collapsing under the weight of popularity.
Yeah.
That legislation is actively pushing travelers to pristine, underdeveloped atolls like Tikehau. But if every unspoiled paradise eventually faces the exact same capacity crisis and the exact same environmental degradation, are we actually solving anything?
It's a tough question.
Or are we just moving the tourism problem around the globe from atoll to atoll, slowly loving each one to death? Or conversely, is this quota-based, highly regulated, high-friction travel the only way we can actually save the fragile places we so desperately want to see? It is the defining travel question of our decade, something to really think about before you book that ticket.
If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day.
Exactly.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.